In the chaotic, war-torn regions of the Third World, many adventures unfold across the timeline of a fantastic franchise. A franchise boasting hyper-realistic graphics, imaginative gameplay, and a vast open world. But enough of this figurative ass-kissing. Anymore, and you guys might think this is sponsored content. Far Cry is the focus of today's story that you totally didn't know for a variety of solid reasons. Reasons that will leave you scratching your head and uttering a grunt of satisfaction like any good video on the internet will make you do. What the hell am I talking about? I'm talking about stuff that makes you question the very fabric of society, baby. Stuff that takes this stable, unchanging, safe grind that we do and puts it under the lens of a broader perspective. So don your machetes, get a magical tattoo, and inject yourself with malaria meds until they ooze out of your goddamn eyeballs. This is the story of what Far Cry is really trying to tell us. This is the story you never knew. Our journey begins with Far Cry 1 and a splendid fellow named Jack Carver. He's an American who's left his unfortunate past behind to run a boat chartering business in the South Pacific. One would think things would be peaceful here, with clear blue waters filling the space between picturesque tropical islands. But chaos soon rears its ugly head when a simple escort mission goes awry thanks to the rockets of ruthless mercenaries. Jack's boat is destroyed just after the woman he escorted, named Val Cortez, leaves on a jet ski. The plot begins here, with Jack traversing this unnamed archipelago in search of Val. Of course, this is hardly a relaxing tropical vacation, for in the search for Miss Cortez, Jack must tear through countless mercenaries and super mutants! These hideous monstrosities, which vaguely resemble your mom, are called Trigens and were created by a DNA tinkering scientist named Krieger, who acts as the main villain in Far Cry 1. An important point to take home is the unyielding genocide of the local islanders thanks to this mad scientist. His goal is to improve upon the human race by making them, like, this, I guess. So maybe they're disgusting, bloodthirsty killing machines incapable of empathy or complex thought. But they are super strong. Top-notch work, Krieger. Inevitably, Jack finds Val, they have some sexual tension, and together they thwart Krieger while taking in the mass genocide. Lovely. So what do we get from all of this? Right now, my only takeaway is that Krieger's a dick, shoehorned romantic subplots are annoying, and graphics in 2004 really weren't that bad. But is that all there is to Far Cry as a whole? Or is there more to this critically acclaimed beast than meets the eye? Well, notice how Jack left the hubbub of the first world for the easy living of the third world, and then got thrown into a madman's plot to grotesquely transform the human race and other species. Notice how utterly defenseless the local islanders are to stop this from happening. Store that information inside of your thinking sack for now as we turn our gaze to Far Cry 2. Released in October of 2008, Far Cry 2 smacks you with the option to choose from several playable characters. It's not terribly important who you choose, but what is important is that the protagonist finds himself in the aftermath of a failed African state, now marred in conflict between two competing factions, the UFLL and the APR. Both of these groups claim to be on the side of the general public, but really, they're both just full of assholes trying to gain power. Each side wishes to establish themselves as the head of this fallen African state, but exhibits behaviors reminiscent of a selfish power struggle, including but not limited to unhinged violence, petty greed, and a general disregard for anyone not enthusiastically on their side. The struggle is real for those caught in the turmoil of this fictional African state, so real in fact that Far Cry 2 does everything it can to push home how real this all is. Navigation in this game isn't done on some non-existent menu-accessible map. It's done by actually looking at a paper map or handheld GPS navigator. Weapons don't just last forever either. They degrade, and so do the vehicles. Weather changes with a real-time climate system, day and night cycles as it does in real life. Fire even spreads based on current wind, moisture, etc. That's all well and good, you might say, but it's not that realistic. It's not like you have to take malaria medication every so often, just like in real real-world underdeveloped African countries? Well, kindly YouTube goer with an extremely specific criticism, you would be wrong to suggest such a thing, because you actually have to take malaria meds every 30 to 40 minutes in this game to keep the illness at bay. Like seriously, it's actually really annoying and the entire internet hates it. But it's pretty realistic, isn't it? Keeping this and other realism factors in mind, it's clear that Ubisoft Montreal had a narrative to tell when crafting this world. The goal here is to set the player down in a realistic simulation of war-torn countries that exist in the real world today. The disease, the crude navigation, the warring factions who don't actually give a fuck about making the world a better place. It's all part of an elaborate narrative to shake up your world. Assuming you live on a part of the globe where white people do yoga all the time. I don't know where the hell you live. You may have noticed that blood diamonds are a form of currency within Far Cry 2, indicating that this fictional African state is marred by blood diamond conflicts along with the current civil war between two equally selfish factions. The realism is strong with this one, because in African countries even today, such as the Central African Republic, civil wars rage out of control while blood diamonds are sold to unsuspecting or indifferent international markets. If you're unfamiliar with what a blood diamond is, it's a diamond mined in the context of a humanitarian disaster. For instance, a faction will enslave people to mine diamonds, sell those diamonds, and use the profits to keep their war machine going, keeping their power intact. Far Cry 2 really drives home the reality of life in these countries. Let's not get preachy about it, but the fragility of a peaceful civilization is quite hard to ignore here. And that's really what the Far Cry franchise as a whole is trying to portray. The violent hellholes that protagonists are dropped into are a far cry from the peaceful existence that is life in the first world. The world from where any player of this game likely came. This is a device to tell a thrilling and unique story, and isn't a way to beat us over the head with lessons about privileged people needing to feel lucky. That's what Far Cry is all about, placing an outsider into these exotic, violence-ridden locations and letting them take in an environment which is prevalent throughout the world but is relatively unknown to the average Westerner. Dealing with malaria meds, guns breaking, unstable governments, and weather changes all fit wonderfully into the reality of adjusting to life in these places. Don't believe me that Far Cry's atmosphere and plot are meant to simulate the harsh realities of life in unstable hellholes as a way of blowing the minds of outsiders? Let's take a look at Far Cry 3.
To my father's black card, to my black card. Woo! I'm the king of the world! Did he fucking pass out? Get in! Yeah!
You guys think you're crazy, huh? Jumping out of airplanes. Flying.
Huh. Oh man, nothing drives home my point like a bunch of douchey white rich kids being idiots and ending up in the clutches of a deranged war criminal. Indeed, Far Cry 3 is all about a broy American dude following the path of the warrior and adapting to an environment that's a far cry from the Hollywood Hills. It's all about surviving on an island controlled by deranged pirates when all you know is manicured lawns, Whole Foods, and MILF porn. This is hardly a novel revelation. Of course Far Cry tries to emulate these war-torn regions to tell a compelling story. So what? All video games put characters in unique situations to throw upon us a scenario we would never experience in real life. I don't know about you, but I've never had to race at the speed of sound against a robotic copy of myself to save the world from this weird-looking motherfucker. My daily grind is slightly less exciting. So what does make Far Cry unique? What makes it stand out? What makes it deserve so many nominations for Game of the Year and Best Story? Such acclaim is always accompanied by innovative storytelling. As you sit there, mouth agape with anticipation, please direct your seeing holes to Far Cry 4. The plot is reasonably familiar. A dude named AJ returns to his home country of Kyrat after 20 years in order to fulfill his mother's dying wish of having her ashes scattered in a special place within Kyrat. Unfortunately, AJ's bus is attacked by the royal army, who take him prisoner by command of the dastardly King Pagan Min, who totally banged AJ's mom. Like actually, to summarize, Kyrat has been utterly taken over by the ruthless pagan Min, with the rebellion dwindling to a trickle in the 20 years AJ's been gone. You must ultimately help the troubled rebellion against the royal army and seize power from King Min. The struggle is ripe with disgusting acts of oppression, messy disagreements between rebellion commanders, and a harsh lesson that a benevolent government is not easily established. Although victory is eventually had, it's clear that the battle was messy and preceded by decades of iron-fisted rule. The road to toppling a dictator took the cooperation of countless people and plenty of luck. And it's not even set in stone that this government will be any better. Indeed, what every installation of Far Cry tells us is that the peaceful life within much of the Western world was built on a foundation of terrible odds and a bitter fight against human greed. A concept which threatens to dissolve our civilization should the thin veil of safety that we've built become broken. The only reason those local businesses and city streets remain functional is because of a conscious choice by every citizen. Our primal instincts for selfish short-term gain lurk just below the surface of our communal goal for a better, more enlightened society. The chaotic regions portrayed in Far Cry show us this harsh reality in gruesome detail. These are places where people rule according to this ingrained primal programming. The antagonist in the first game wanted to mold humanity according to his ideals, namely strength and violence. The local islanders made for an easy, corruptible target that the relative safety of the first world simply couldn't provide. The factions in Far Cry 2 care only about acquiring power so that they can feel comfortable and safe and bang all the women they want. Anyone who gets in the way of this is crushed with an iron fist. The pirates in Far Cry 3 are the same way, and so is the king in the fourth installment. It becomes clear that the stability of established civilization is somewhat of an illusion. When organization, steady food supply, and government cease to exist, the slate is wiped clean, creating an environment where greed and selfishness can reassert itself. Just look at the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. Just days after the disaster, looting and violence took over the once organized city. Our government failed to aid in the wake of the hurricane as well, thus amplifying the issue. The veil of society was lifted, and things quickly devolved into chaos, the very environment in which the villains of Far Cry were able to thrive. Fortunately, the city of New Orleans did not remain as it did just days after the hurricane, but a larger scale cataclysm could more permanently wipe out our systems of organization. Far Cry shows us what our world could look like should we succumb to negative thought patterns in the wake of such an event. It's something to be aware of, and sheds light on how beautifully fragile this all is and how much personal choice plays a role in maintaining civilization. Is the chaos of this franchise really such a far cry from the comforts of the first world? Is it simply looming nearby on the other side of a cataclysmic disaster? Perhaps it is. Perhaps it's not. Should we make the decision to maintain our cooperative thinking rather than devolve into primal tendencies? And that's the story. You never knew. Hey, great job making it this far. Now that you're at the final boss, follow us on Twitter to beat the game. At Treesicle Team is what you need to know. Do it! Do it! Now it's time for a nice rest. Why not join us on our Discord server? Just click the link in the description and we can hang out and play games together. It's gonna be awesome! Heh.